Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing okay this evening. Let me check my audio. Guys, I want to thank everyone for help with the show. It is much appreciated. Whether you... I'm bad at doing two things at once. I'm sorry. There we are. Whether you like, share, whether you send articles, super chat, Patreon, whatever. In ways big and insignificant, thank you very much. It is much appreciated. You guys make the show. So this one is going to be relatively fast because this one is not necessarily much on this one, but this one is just an interesting case that's moving through the courts. A case was brought against Donald Trump, saying that Donald Trump was breaching the Emoluments Clause. Now, the Emoluments Clause, for all intents and purposes, the president can't profit from the office of the presidency. You can understand that being in that particular office, making policy in the way that you would make policy with all of the powers endowed to you under the Constitution, that left to craven capitalistic impulses, the president, if he wanted to, could make buku bucks off the office. So you can see that that would be frowned upon by a society that's sane to say we don't allow the president to do that. Now, attorney generals brought forth, two attorney generals, I think it was Maryland and what was the other one? Maryland and Washington, D.C., saying that Donald Trump was breaching the Emoluments Clause. Now, Donald Trump's attorneys tried to get the case thrown out, and the case was not thrown out. The judge is allowing the case to proceed. The judge making the case himself that it looks as if the president may be profiting off the presidency. The Russia nonsense that's been pervasive over the last 2 years, if you're going to get Donald Trump on something, this would be it. This would be it. The Russia stuff is nonsense. This is where you want to hit him if you're trying to hit him. Now, I understand that from the standpoint of trying to tie up Trump, you want to use Russia. Fair enough. I understand also from the standpoint of the Russia stuff allows you to hit the left. So again, fair enough. But if the goal is to be effective, it seems like this is where it's at. I mean, I remember when Donald Trump took office, and I'm like, hey, that looks dicey. I mean, I didn't like it when Hillary Clinton was monetizing the State Department. I'm not liking it when Donald Trump is monetizing the presidency. That looks bad. Republicans would say, well, I mean, come on, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. Give him a little bit of time. Give him a little bit of time. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. If Donald Trump is still monetizing the presidency at this point, there should be consequences for him monetizing the presidency, nor should you want a president monetizing the office. Let's take a look at this. There are two articles. I want to read part of each because each one gives part of the story. The Rolling Stones is just a better article, but the NBC News one is not bad either. Federal judge on Wednesday refused to throw out a lawsuit against President Donald Trump that accuses him of improperly benefiting financially when foreign or state governments stay or use space at his hotel with just a few blocks away from the White House. The Attorney General of Maryland and Washington, D.C. claimed that Trump is violating the Constitution's Emoluments Clause, which bars the president from receiving any present emolument, office, or title of any kind, whatever, from any king, prince, or foreign state, or any domestic state. Trump's lawyers asked the judge in the case, Peter Messett, to throw the case out. They argued that the term emolument had a very specific meaning, a payment made to a public official in addition to an official salary. Under that reading, financial benefits from an office holder's private business dealings would be exempt. I love that. I love that. Lawyers. He's trying to constrain what it means. Hey. Yes, he may be profiting, but what that means is very narrow interpretation of it. This is the wild part about this. The judge says, no, the framers of the Constitution may not necessarily had Trump in mind, but at the very least, they had situations like this in mind. And the interpretation that you're going with is far too narrow. The judge, applying what I would consider to be common sense, bats that down. But Judge Messett ruled Wednesday that the Constitution's framers understood the term to have broader meaning, applying to any profit, gain, or advantage. The Emoluments Clause are intended to protect against any type of potentially improper influence by foreign, the federal, the state governments upon the president. The governments of Kuwait, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Romania have done business with Trump International Hotel in Washington, and Judge Messett's ruling said some of the foreign governments have indicated that the patronizing of the hotel precisely because of the president's association with it. Think about what's been said. They're staying at Trump's hotels because of Donald Trump's association with those hotels. The Rolling Stones article puts a finer point on this. So let's see, where can we start? All right, let's start right here. One of the suits filed in 2017 by Maryland AG Brian Frost and DC AG Carl Rassine, with the help of the watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, President Trump's continued ownership interests in a global business empire, which renders him deeply enmeshed with the legion of foreign and domestic government actors, violates the Constitution and calls into question the rule of law and the integrity of the country's political system, they wrote. Never before has a president acted with such disregard for the constitutional prescription. Wow, I love that. As I reported at the time, the two AG pinpointed Donald Trump's continued ownership of his businesses in D.C. and Maryland, like his Washington hotel, as particularly problematic. Justice Department lawyers sought to dismiss Frost and Rassine's suit by arguing that they failed to show D.C. and Maryland would suffer injuries as a result of Trump's continued ownership of his businesses. Let's skip right here. The Department of Justice had some success beating back other emoluments-related lawsuits, but in this instance, the judge seemed receptive to Frost and Rassine's argument, including the interpretation of the Emoluments Clause and how Trump had run afoul of it. In an earlier decision, Messett narrowed the scope of the case to focus on Trump's Washington hotel, located a few blocks from the White House. But in his 52-page ruling published Wednesday, Messett wrote that the current situation, a sitting president profiting from a hotel that foreign and domestic governments and other interests use for business, was exactly what the framers had in mind when they created the Emoluments Clause. In sum, he wrote, plaintiffs have plausibly alleged that the president has been receiving or is potentially able to receive emoluments in violation of the Constitution. The Justice Department can appeal Messett's ruling, but if it stands, Frost and Rassine and crew will soon have the chance to seek access to Trump Organization's internal records and to review Trump Organization's employees about the Washington hotel and the foreign governments that have done business there. There is also a possibility that they will seek to obtain the holy grail of Trump-related documents, the president's tax returns, which he has yet to disclose, breaking with a 4-decade tradition by major party presidential candidates. Look, whether you're a Trump supporter or otherwise, I would hope you could please tell me that you can see that there's somewhat of a problem if you don't necessarily know who's in that office. And what I mean by that is I understand that there's always a certain level of opaqueness. And even from the standpoint of phony advertising in regards to shaping an image, it's shaping a narrative of who a president is. Even that's to some degree opaque. So there's always opaqueness. But in the past, they've showed their tax returns. And in this situation, there are business interests where he's still entangled. I think that's problematic. Whether you're a Trump supporter or not, that is problematic. You can't serve two masters. Pick a pony. Do you want to be businessman or do you want to be a president? You can't be both. And in this case, Donald Trump is trying to skate on this and be both. They've called him to account. I think the Russia stuff is nonsense. I do not think this is nonsense. I didn't like it when Hillary Clinton was doing it. I don't like it when Donald Trump is doing it. So I'm at least consistent. All right, I'm going to end this here And it looks like my thing is getting a little, well, this looks fine. So I'm gonna end this here. This one is not long. Like I said, I was gonna keep this one short. I still have others coming up behind me, and including interviews. I have an interview at 5 p.m. I have another one at 7 p.m. This is going to be a late night, to say the least. I didn't necessarily plan it that way. It just kind of happened that way, ass backwards. So I will see you guys in like 5-10 minutes. Thanks, guys.